My name is JD Bradley, and I've had a hell of a life that's given me a unique perspective and crazy stories that I share here. Interrogated by the FBI. That's this episode. Did you ever watch Sesame Street growing up as a small child? If not, I really feel sorry for you, because Sesame Street's some of the badass shit in the world to be exposed to at that age. But in honor of Sesame Street, this episode is sponsored by the letter D and the number 9. That being said, here we go. I had a very good friend named Kelly. We're going to call him Kelly D, because I'm not going to say his last name for a number of reasons. And he was a badass motherfucker and a good man, one of my favorite people I've ever come across. And I had not been out of the Army very long, and he had come across some explosives. And he said, "Hey, I want you to show me how to use these explosives." And I had a little bit of experience with explosives in the Army, but I was certainly no expert, and I definitely didn't know civilian explosives. But nevertheless, he's kind of a crazy motherfucker, and I didn't really want anything to do with it anyway, because I know how serious the government takes explosives, and this was pre-Oklahoma. So I said, "Hey, man, I'd rather not have anything to do with that." And he comes back and he says, "If you don't show me how to do it, I'm going to blow myself up." And I really like the guy, like a brother to this day, even though I haven't seen him in fucking no telling how many years. And so I told him where to get some books on the subject, and I gave him a couple field manuals, and that was that in my mind. But I was going through a reserve drill sergeant school. I was a reserve drill sergeant, which I've covered in a previous episode. And phase 1 drill sergeant school, like I said then, I think it's 2 weeks. That's a long time. I think it's 2 weeks of active duty. Anyway, I was in phase 1 drill sergeant school, and I called home on a payphone back when you use a bunch of quarters in the payphone, like click, 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 a bunch of quarters. And I can't even remember who I talked to, but they had told me that Blair Jones's truck had got blown up. I'm saying his name, and you know what? I got nothing bad to say about that man. Actually, I've always been extremely fond of that man. But when I heard it, the only person that I knew in this small town that had explosives was my friend Kelly. And I had a sinking feeling. I was like, oh no, this is terrible. But anyway, I had to finish phase 1 drill sergeant school when I got back. And apparently, you know, in small towns, people talk. Shit, in big towns, people talk, really. But I got back, and there was a serious investigation. And Kelly and I both worked at the same factory. I'm not going to say the name of the factory for legal reasons, and just seems like a bad idea. And I had never met the president before, but I was a crate builder. I built big crates around huge pieces of food processing machinery. And I was working a crate, and the president of the company walks towards me with 2 guys in suits and Fed badges. And he says, "This is him." And he was looking at me when he said that. So they said, "Come with us, Mr. Bradley," and they'd already arranged a room. And now that I think about this, it's probably a little bit of an extra long episode compared to most. But anyway, they had a room in the front of the building that the president of the company had already let them have access to. And they had, they brought me in, and they told me to sit in this chair against the back wall. And on the other 2 opposing corners, they had a camera. Both these cameras were facing me at opposite 45 degrees, I suppose. I've been drinking, of course, imagine that, angles. But anyway, and so they sit me down, and they informed me of all the trouble I was in, because this was a domestic terrorism charge, and Uncle Sam doesn't fuck around with domestic terrorism. And, you know, whatever. But anyway, so then they did the good cop, bad cop thing, and the good cop FBI guy tells me, "Your friend Kelly's in the other room right now with 2 other agents, and he's rolling over and he's cutting a deal. It would be in your best interest to cut a deal with him on him." And I thought about it. I said, "Man, you're a bullshit motherfucker." And he said, "Excuse me, son." And it always annoys me being called son for a lot of reasons I'm not going to get into. Mostly, I still fucking hate my father's day, even though it's been in the grave forever. But anyway, he said, "You're facing some serious charges, son." He said, "You might want to reconsider your words." And I didn't really reconsider my words. I said, "You're a bullshit motherfucker." And I looked at the camera to the left, straight on. I said, pointing at him, and said, "He's a bullshit motherfucker." And I looked at the camera to the right and pointed at him and said, "He's a bullshit motherfucker." And he said, "Do you care to explain yourself?" And I said, yeah, you fucking fed pig motherfucker. I said, number one, my friend Kelly's one of the most stand-up men that I've ever known in my entire life. So when you're telling me, and by the way, that applies to this day. I said, when you're telling me he's in the other room ratting me out over some shit I had nothing to do with, I said, you're a bullshit motherfucker. And I said, oh yeah, by the way, when that truck got blown up, I was in Phase 1 drill sergeant school at Fort Lewis, Washington. You can check with my reserve unit, the 1st and 416th Training Division. We're done, you fucking fed pig. So anyway, that was the time that I was interrogated by the FBI. I was really lucky that I had an airtight alibi. And that story actually should be continued because it definitely got interesting from there. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope I kept you entertained. Of course, check out jdburlett.com. I have a blog, blah, 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 blah. And thanks a lot for listening. I sincerely appreciate it.